Factor finders can help all kinds of staffing agencies get funding for their businesses. And I wanted to talk about one specific case study that we did on a security guard staffing company that was able to use Factor Finder's resources in order to fund his payroll and continue to expand his business. Matthew launched his business about a year ago, and when he first launched, he was factoring through one of his local banks. And came time that his bank sent him a notice of termination on his loan, basically stating that there was a 3-day lapse in his insurance policy between when the old one ended and the new one began, and that was a covenant violation, and therefore it was a breach of contract, and he was now no longer able to factor with his bank. So at a loss, Matthew was in jeopardy because he knew he had to make payroll within the next 2 weeks, and he was planning on factoring a pretty big invoice in order to cover that payroll. So that night he did some internet research and he came across Factor Finder's website, noticed that we are able to cater our factoring services to security guard staffing companies, and he filled out an online form. And the very next morning, first thing in the morning, a representative from Factor Finders made contact with Matthew. After a couple of discussions and some paperwork exchanges, within a week, Factor Finders was able to negotiate a buyout with the bank and purchase all of Matthew's current invoices that were open with the bank, close out that factoring line, and start anew with a factoring line of credit through Factor Finders. And as a result, Matthew was able to factor his receivables and make payroll on time, and 2 months on down the road, he was able to add 3 brand new clients as well. In addition to funding his payroll and making sure that Matthew was able to cover all of his financial obligations, Matthew was able to take advantage of Factor Finder's free credit analysis on his new clients, which saved him a lot of time and money, because Factor Finders was able to tell him ahead of time, what type of payment terms to expect and turnaround times to receive his payments from his 2 new clients. And he was able to avoid doing business with a client that had bad credit from the get-go. Also, Factor Finders was able to help Matthew take over his collections process, which helped free up even more time for him to continue to grow his business. It also saved Matthew a lot of money because he no longer had to pay for overhead to keep his collections process in-house. For more information on Factor Finders' temporary staffing factoring programs, please visit Factor Finders at www.factorfinders.com or call us at 1-855-FACTOR-1.